But for now, it's a virtual world, and I'm a virtual chef. So here we are, virtually. I'm excited about tonight. This is a good recipe. I love French cuisines, and this is the south of France. So this is a classic that we're going to be doing tonight. If anybody's cooking with us tonight, hopefully you have a good knife, you have some chicken, and you have some good wine. Tonight, I think I have a beer. My friend Harmeet recommended this beer from Barrel Monks, Single and Habana. Guava, notes in there. Pretty good.
Live on Facebook as well.
All right. So we're going to get started. Welcome, guys, to tonight's cooking class. My name is Jorge Montes, and let me rattle your bell and wake you up. Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's feeling good. If your kids are around, remind them that we're cooking together. Sit back and relax. Grab a drink. If you're cooking with me, hopefully you have all your mise en place, all your ingredients ready, set to go. And if you're not, just sit back, relax. We're going to cook. So as I say, relax. There's always a lot of things going on in the kitchen. So especially when you're not cooking, it's one of my favorite things. Or when I have friends over, my friends love to just sit at the counter, have a glass of wine and watch, or we chit chat and we have this communal kind of cooking thing kind of going on. So this is the way I approach it. We're having a little dinner together and we're going to cook. So tonight's class, we're going to make a chicken Provencal, which is a classic dish that I learned in culinary school, actually. I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale 22 years ago, 21 years ago, actually. So this is a throwback school dish that I'm throwing at you. And it's also a throwback old school French dish that you should know. It's easy, it's very simple. You can make this with the whole chicken, which you cut up and approach it this way. Or tonight, I'm doing a chicken breast, make it a little easier. So the first thing we're gonna do, and when cooking French, there's always a lot of technical stuff. The first thing we're gonna do a tomato concasse. And we're on two forums tonight. We're on Zoom and we're on Facebook. If anybody's on Facebook, please send your comments on the Facebook chat. I have Joe in the 1 and 2s. He's going to be asking me the questions. Be patient because he has to read them to me. I'm going to read them aloud to you and answer the best that I can on the spot, live. So you try cooking live and talking to hundreds of people at once. So just bear with me, please. Merci beaucoup, my chérie. All right. And also on Zoom. Anybody on Zoom, please, on that form, I can hear you. So I'm starting from the beginning. What am I doing?
Just pick up. Okay, you're back on.
Yeah, we're good.
Technical snap.
All right. So we had a hiccup. It's Tuesday. Technical difficulties. Like the French say, la merde happens. So shit happens, la merde happens. Sorry for any kids out there, but it happens. So we're back. We're gonna do chicken Provencal from the south of France. And every country has its own regional. Think of United States. You think of Florida, you think tropical stuff, right? Now think of cuisine in Texas, barbecue, or you think a little Northeast, lobster is very different, right? The regional stuff. So the same approach, when you think about your own country, think about other countries the same way. And you're going to learn and understand that within one country, there's so many differences within the idiosyncrasies of the people, the culture, and the cuisine. So in the south of France, it's a little more herbs, olives. It's a different vibe. And even the south and the north will fight. Ask a Frenchman, someone that's a PSG soccer fan and a Marseille fan. They'll clash. Same with a Barcelona and a Real Madrid. It's the same country. There's still this kind of regional clash. It happens. So and if you understand that, you understand that the differences within the country itself. So today is the south of France. All right, we're gonna start up with a classic technique of tomato concassé. So we're gonna start with the tomatoes. I have water boiling over here, and we're gonna do a blanch and shock effect. So you need some boiling water and some ice cold water. Think of it like an icy hot. We're gonna boil the tomato enough that the skin peels off, and then we're gonna shock it and put in cold water so the cooking process stops, and that way we can peel the skin. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna core. We're gonna take away that little. I'm not gonna say what it looks like, but that little button over here. Boom. So we're gonna remove that. We're gonna stick your little paring knife. This is a slicing knife. I have a little paring knife. Doesn't matter what knife, as long as you know how to use a knife. Choke up your knife and use the end and just remove that little core right there. This little piece right there. Boom. That little tiny piece. Then we're gonna score. Yeah, we're gonna score. Little X. Boom. Just like that. Little X marks the spot. And you're like, why are we doing this? So that little X, as it boils, is gonna the skin is gonna peel back. So when we peel it, it's gonna be easy. One, two, three, four little peels. Right? Hot water is boiling. It's hot. Tomatoes are inside. Timer begins. 30 to 45 seconds. Somebody time me. Somebody please remind me because I'll forget. I just talk a lot about food, so I forget. So you want these covered in there. So a couple important things. You're gonna need your chef knife. You have your tongs. Simple tools that you always need in the kitchen. We're gonna let this go. And the next thing we're gonna set up is get your chicken breast ready. I'm doing chicken breast today. Like I said, you can make this dish with a whole chicken. You cut it up, and we can use the legs, the thighs. This is traditionally a nice stew. For a nice Tuesday to Friday easy meal, chicken breast is always my go-to. It's easy, especially when you like dust it. Like today, we're gonna dust in a little bit of flour and salt and all that good stuff. Speaking of salt, we need you give me a little container of salt, tiny one. Thank you. All right, so 45 seconds have passed. Let's check on the tomatoes. Again, every tomato is different. Like you are different and I'm different. So you have to give it a little bit of time. So really your best bet is looking at the score. Remember when we made that little score? Once you start seeing the skin peeling back, that's a sign that the tomato is like hot enough, it's relaxing. It's like, okay, I give in. My skin's peeling back. So that's what you really want. So it could be 30 seconds, it could be 45 seconds to a minute. Anything beyond a minute, either tomato's not ripe or you're overcooking it. So you don't want to do that. So okay, let me pull this one back. All right. So this is still hot. So I'm gonna slightly. This is what I want you to see, that peeling. If your tomato's doing that, it's ready to go. So at that point, dump it in the ice cold water. See, ice cold water. You need a little ice baby, right there. Ice cold water. Get rid of this water. You don't need that. And now you want to let the tomatoes chill. I only have two tomatoes, so they're gonna chill pretty rather quick. Again, you don't also want to let them sit in cold water. It starts, by osmosis, start absorbing all this water. So at this point, you just want it cold enough for it to stop the cooking process, so the tomatoes don't overcook. And what you want to do is start peeling back the skin. All right. So you can do that with your hands. You can do that with a knife. If you feel like the tomato's still a little warm after you peel the skin, all you have to do is dump it back in the ice. But look at that. This is the easiest ways to peel your tomato. Dump it back in the ice water. So I'm gonna do that to both. Peel the skins. Now you can save the skins for like a chicken stock or like a beef stock, really, or you can discard them, or you can eat them if you want. You can throw them in your pizza. The skins, they're not. There's not a bad thing. But one thing I learned about French cuisine, they're all about, especially like fine dining. It's all about like getting the skin out, the seeds out, and just refining the whole thing. It's all about this refinement, especially in the north of France. So now that we removed the skin, we took the core out, we took the skin out. Now we're gonna remove the seeds. So grab your chef knife, cut it in half horizontally, just like so. And I'm gonna stick my finger in this little pods where the seeds are, and I'm gonna remove all the seeds. So get the seeds out. If you have any questions, please, guys, ask them.
One question, Chef, from Courtney on Zoom.
Yeah,
They
Court.
want to know, why would you peel the tomato? They've never done that before.
Okay, so great question. Why would I peel the tomatoes? So in the United States, you don't do that. That's not American cuisine style. In French cuisine, you want to peel them because to most the skin is it's a little tougher. It gets stuck, it's stuck in your teeth. Do you really get a lot of flavor from the skin? A lot of color? Yes, you do, but really you get the most delicate part from the meatiness of that meat. So this has already been skinned, de-seeded, and this is the tomato right there on its core. So this is gonna be a more delicate sweet tomato. So think about a strawberry without the seeds and just get this little meaty part. I didn't make up with it. This is the French style uh, technique for doing what you call a tomato concasse. So you want to skin it, remove the seeds, and then you dice it, and that's what you get, this pure tomato meatiness. So this recipe calls for that. Again, I'm removing the seeds from that, and this is a sub recipe within a recipe. And a lot of dishes you can do this. This is good if you're making salsa. How do you apply this at home? If you're making a salad, it really makes nice. If you're gonna stuff a tomato, one of the most beautiful things is doing that. Take the skin out, take the seeds out, and you can put a little crab meat inside, put a little cheese and bake that tenderness. So what you're accomplishing here, a little more tenderness, a little more delicate kind of taste. All right, so we're gonna do that right away. And this is, a main part of the recipe, and this is a very classic part of French cuisine is a tomato concasse. Does everybody do this? No. Can you do this without doing this? Yes. You can still do the same recipe, just dicing your tomatoes the regular way. But I'm just showing you the better way. Follow me. All right. All right. Once you have your tomatoes skinned, peeled, diced, and all that good stuff, we're gonna cut them into nice little chunks, and we're gonna dice them up. And I promise you, I want you to have this test. If you don't trust what I'm telling you or never experienced this, do that to one tomato and try the other tomato the other way. And I promise you, you're going to taste the difference of the taste of tomato. And one of my favorite things about cooking is how you apply different cooking techniques to an ingredient, and it just might change the whole ingredient to you, and therefore change your whole cuisine. So sometimes one technique might change a lot of dishes for you. All right.
A couple of questions here from Facebook, Chef.
We got some questions coming up.
Could you do something with the seeds that you removed?
So the question was, can I do something with the seeds? Yes, you can. You can plant them in your garden and create more tomatoes, and that's the beauty of life. Or you can put them in your sauce. You can also add them to your chicken stock or your beef stock. That's one thing that I do with the seeds and stuff. So I was trying to fit them all in this container, but I won't be able to. You know what? I'm gonna put them here.
one more question is, what tool do you recommend to remove the seeds without using your hands?
All right. So what tool do I recommend to remove the seeds without my hands? Maybe use like a little melon baller. But if you're scared of using your hands, I'm going to tell you a harsh truth. Then you're scared of cooking, because cooking is really about using your hands. It's a craft. So any craft, you really need your hands. If you don't want to use your hands, use gloves. And my best tool is my pinky. Just dig in there. If you don't want to use your pinky, use a tiny little spoon. I have these little tasting spoons that I use all the time, and these are little tiny minuscule. So if you don't want to use your finger, use one of these little tiny spoons. All right. So this is what it looks like: tomato concassé. This is a sub recipe within the recipe. All right. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. We're gonna first start searing the chicken breast. If you're using a whole chicken, cut up your chicken, dry it up, and we're gonna use that whole thing. So I have a chicken breast here. This was marinated earlier. You don't have to marinate it. I'm gonna split it in half because this is a big breast. Here we go. So I'm gonna cut it right in half, make it almost like a semi-cutlet. One breast became two. Now it's a party. All right. So next thing we're gonna season them with salt and pepper. Very important in cooking, seasoning. You want to season all your ingredients. So for example, we're doing this chicken dish. You want to season the chicken on its own. A little salt and black pepper. I love black pepper, especially with chicken, because you know what? Everybody says, oh, chicken's so bland. Well, season the damn thing. Of course it's gonna be bland. It's chicken breast. It doesn't have that much fat. It's low in fat. So whenever you're cooking something that's low in fat, you need to have more flavor. Fat has a lot of flavor.
Question from Facebook. What was the chicken marinated?
So I did mention the chicken was marinated, and we always have a house marinate in Rojo, because Rojo, we always season everything. You look at me up in chat and Instagram, I am chefsazon. I love to sazon things, season things, flavor things. And I encourage people to flavor things because life always needs flavor. So this marinade has olive oil and has the house herbs, which is thyme, basil, rosemary. We have stuff from the garden. We have sometimes dill. We have garlic. We have a little paprika. This one doesn't have paprika. This just has rosemary, thyme, basil, parsley, garlic, and garlic oil. So that's what that has. So salt and pepper on both sides, right? We got that on both sides. Good. Next, what we're gonna do, we're gonna dredge it. And that's not even my culinary term. When I started cooking, this is what I first learned, dredge. And I didn't even know what dredge means. But it really just means covered in flour. So a little flour, especially when you're cooking with chicken breast, right? Sometimes people say, well, my chicken breast is always dry. I put it in the pan. It has this like really hard crust. But you know what? Normally, I'll be better with a little piece of skin or something. So a chicken breast doesn't have the skin. Like in this case, it's skinless. So adding the flour is going to create a little layer that's going to encase the chicken breast and prevent it from being dry. So we're making a mess, which I love doing in the kitchen. This is what I get into this for, to make mess. So dredge it fully from the top. We have another question coming up.
How long would you marinate the chicken ahead of time?
Okay, so the question was if I'm going to marinate the chicken. For something like this, you can marinate. Chicken will hold its own in a marinade as long as it doesn't have any acid, like lemon or vinegar. So in this case, it's an oil-based marinade. This will hold on for at least 3 days. So you can extend it to 3 days. But in reality, just keep it a 1 day. You don't need to go too crazy. 1 day is good. So one important thing, once you have it in the flour, dust it. And this is dusting. Just give it a little shake. So it's not fully coated in this flour. Let me put it over here. Boom.
Question from Zoom. For this herb seasoning, can you use herbs de Provence? I have a bottle of those. Lisa
Okay.
from New York, I believe.
Lisa?
Lisa Castellanos.
So Lisa has a question. So you can use the herbs de Provence. This is a chicken Provencal. So this is the perfect time to use your herbs de Provence as a marinade. Is put a little herbs de Provence, maybe some grated garlic or chopped garlic with a little bit of olive oil, and that'll be the perfect marinade for your chicken breast. Do that overnight or even a couple hours before. That'll be great. And herbs de Provence, a lot of people probably wondering what the heck is in that. You know, it's like a mix. It's a regional mix. It has marjoram, which is a little flowery kind of spice. There's lavender, a spice that is soft and floral and beautiful that I love. There's thyme, there's basil. I could be wrong. I think there's rosemary, but someone please prove me wrong. So while we wait for that, we have a hot pan over here. I'm going to put some canola oil. Can you use olive oil? Of course you can. But I want it hot. I'm going to sear this and I want to brown the chicken breast. So this might take a couple minutes. Could be 4 to 8 minutes. Depends on what you on how high your pan is. So I got my oil going on. I'm gonna get that nice and hot. I'm gonna powder off this, poof, make it rain kind of deal. Now don't freak out. We are gonna cook the chicken. Everything here is cooked. We ain't gonna get salmonella. All right. So I'm just gonna wait for that to get hot. Make sure you have a tongue because we're gonna flip this guy in a little bit. We salted and pepper both sides. I'm gonna dust off this flour and now we have a couple questions coming up. Hit me.
From Sam Steele. Could we use thighs instead of breast?
So the question was, can you use thighs instead of breast? I am a thigh man, chicken wise. So you can use thighs. I love thighs. You can use any part of the chicken with this dish. Matter of fact, you can use a pork chop, the other white meat. So any part of the chicken will work really, really nice for this preparation. So that, how do you know if it's hot? It's been on high heat for at least 45 seconds to a minute and a half. So that's a good sign. Another good sign is that the oil is very fluid. And I can also feel the heat. So I'm gonna put those in there. So I'm gonna put those in there and don't touch them. One of the number one mistakes, as soon as you put something in the pan, you're like, okay, now you're like, okay, I'm excited. It's cooking, here I am. And then you start touching things. As soon as you put something in the pan, there's such an intimate thing going on with the food and the heat. Heat is one of the most important tools since cavemen. So you want to let heat do its thing. If you move this around, the chicken is not going to brown. You're not letting the Maillard effect occur. And what that is, the chemical reaction within the proteins of the chicken that start caramelizing. That's what's going to give you that nice caramelization or that brown looking sear. If you move it around, what's going to happen, the chicken's going to release all the moisture and it's going to start boiling in the pan within the oil. So you don't want to do that.
Another question, Chef.
Yep.
Can you use lavender for cooking?
So the question was, can you use lavender for cooking? Of course you can. Lavender is a beautiful spice. I love using lavender. It's a subtle but strong spice flower. So you can use that. What I use it a lot often. What I like it with duck. I do a lavender maple glaze that I do with poultry. That works really really nice. So lavender is a good herb. Just make sure it doesn't have any pesticides and all that stuff. So the chicken's going crazy. Not going crazy, but there's action. And I can see the sides turning a little brown. I'm sure you guys can see that. Maybe you can. I don't want to get the camera full of stuff. Again, I'm not touching it. I'm letting it do its thing. So while we're waiting for it to do its thing, make sure you have all your ingredients. So we have some garlic that's chopped up. I have that. Boom. A funky ingredient. This is the je ne sais quoi. What the heck is going on in here? Anchovy. If you're freaking out about anchovies, well, you shouldn't because you're normally haven't probably eaten one before. You just like see this on TV. They're like, oh, I don't want a pizza with anchovies. Anchovies are really, really nice. They give you a lot of this beefiness. If you like A1 sauce, Worcestershire sauce, some barbecue sauce, all that has anchovies hidden in there. And that's what you like, is that funky umami kind of taste. So, surprise. All right. So next, what I'm going to do while we wait, speaking of umami, olives. So this is another South of France ingredient. These are olives that have been brined in oil. So if you ever see these little shriveled up little black olives, that's these guys, and they're really tasty. You can leave them whole. They have their pit on, and in this case, we're going to slice them in half. I'm going to leave one half with the pit, the other half without it. But before I do that, my chicken's starting to brown, and once it's brown, you turn it around. Look at that. And I'm gonna hold one up here. Look at that. Beautiful suntan. It was in the Ibiza or maybe in Marseille. Again, nice suntan. Boom. All right. Or Saint Tropez. So now, like I said, once it's brown, you turn it around. You want that get the beautiful golden crust all around, and that's gonna cook. Once you have that chicken brown like that, like something that's about an inch thick, pork chop or chicken, whatever you're searing, that's going to get you, once it's brown all around, that's going to be about 80% done. So that's what we want. While we wait for that, we're going to trim our olives in half. And these olives are delicious since they've been brined in that oil, they've been cured. That's a proper term. They've been slowly been drying and removing all that moisture. And when you remove the moisture from something, and I talk about this in doing a sauce, like a reduction, when the moisture reduces, the flavor comes out more and you get more of that intense olive flavor. So this is what we're doing right here. You can remove the pit. If you want to remove the pit, this is what you do. You give it a little nice smash. And in that smash, you should be able to remove the pit like I just did. And you have this pitless. But there's something beautiful about leaving the pit in there. It gives a little more flavor, call it more soul. There we go. So our olives are going to be ready. Our tomatoes are going to be ready. I'm going to put the olives with the tomatoes because they're going together. I'm also going to add the herbs of Provence to my tomatoes and olives over here. And also a pinch of salt and a pinch of pepper. Because you know what? They're going to go in, but these guys are going to need seasoning. So going back to seasoning and layering ingredients. Have those ready. Ready to go. All right. Chicken is brown all around. Let's take these guys out. Some recipes you can add some onions to this, but right now we're gonna add garlic. Boom. And the anchovy paste. All right. Good old wooden spoon. I love the wooden spoons for two reasons. The most important one, you don't want to rub metal with metal. It's gonna scrape. Once you rub wood on metal, you don't scrape all that stuff. But really, I love the wood. It gives me a primitive grandma vibe. So I like that. So if you were here, you would smell this pungent garlic and anchovy flavor. That this is the foundation of the flavor. Now we add the olives, the herbs of Provence, and tomatoes. Boom. You can give it a flip if you're feeling fancy, or just get at it with your spoon. I think one of the most important things about this dish is that garlic and anchovy foundation. Any questions, Joe, or anybody on Facebook or Zoom? Hit us up.
Yeah, we have a question here, Julio.
Oh yes, I forgot. My homeboy Julio was Julio's everywhere. Julio's always on the move. So it's always an honor to have him. Tonight, it was his night off. Joe, can you pass me another gas, please? So if you can smell this now, this smell right now, the olives, the garlic, the anchovy, the tomatoes, and the herbs of Provence, this is the smell of the south of France. This is this is really the what in the Latin word you call it sofrito, the foundation of that key flavor of the south of France. And any of my French people watching, and I just want to say a couple of shout outs while we're doing this to our South Florida peeps. We have a huge fan base down here on Meetup, South Florida, the homemade chefs. We have over almost 7,000 homemade chefs on Meetup. We have a lot of fans going on New York. I think we have a bunch of New Yorkers on Zoom tonight and around the world. If you're from anywhere around the world, please give us a shout out, say hello, give us a time where you're at. And while we're talking about time,
Question.
I'm going to hit you up with a little white wine before that question. And bring that to reduce. A little white wine right there. Go on.
Okay, question is from Anna. Once you take the chicken out, you reduce the heat when you add all of these ingredients.
No. So the question was, once I take the chicken out, do I reduce the heat? And I have not. Right now, we've been on full blast. So as soon as the chicken's been gone, which is right here, not too far from here, I kept it on high, and I added the garlic and the anchovy right away. We want to get that chicken flavor because I don't want to burn any of the fond, any of the remaining little chicken bits in the pan. So immediately I want to cook the garlic, the anchovy, and that was like within 20, 30 seconds. And then once you add the liquids, everything comes to a full boil. And one more ingredient I'm going to add, chicken broth. If you want to make this a little beefier, you can add beef broth, but chicken broth is really, really nice. Once you reduce it down, you can get that chicken flavor. So we have another question.
Question. Is there another option for olives, and do those olives have a sour taste?
Okay, so the question was, do we have another option for olives instead of these guys? Yes, you can. A great option is capers. Caper berries are really, really nice. They're also pickled and cured, and they have a lot of that same similar flavors. So caper berries would be really, really nice. Um, the other question was, are these olives sour? Um, I mean, if you don't like olives, this dish might not be for you. Can you use other olives? Yes, you can use the green ones, or it's delicious. Feels a little more Italian. You can use any kind of olives. I use Kalamata olives. If I don't have these can be a little more brinier. If you had these on its own from the jar, you'll understand the flavors. So the first thing I always say with cooking anything that you don't know, taste the ingredient. The important thing about being a chef is understanding the flavors. So if you do not know what a color red looks like, look at the color red, paint with it, touch it, don't eat the color, just paint. But in this case, with food, approach the ingredients the same way. So if you have never eaten an ingredient, go to a restaurant that has that ingredient cooked in the best way it can and appreciate it that way. Go to the market, cook with it, and or taste it, and that way you understand the ingredient, and therefore you can make an educated guess or a decision on whether you like it or whether you want to cook with it. So first thing, try it. So, and the beautiful thing about some of these ingredients, like for example, olives. I'll give you a good example. I'm a chef. I've been cooking for 22 years, but my whole life up to 17, 18 years old, I've never really enjoyed olives. I always thought I'm like, ugh, wagala, nasty. Ugh, I don't want to try this. Until I was 21 years old and I tried a martini. My first martini with an olive, a dirty martini. Yep, I was getting dirty at 21. I tried this martini, I tried the olive, and then I was like, wow, this is delicious. It's different. It's something different that I never really experienced. So it takes a while for your palate to train. You know, there's a thing called acquired taste. So the more you try something, you acquire that taste and you understand it. And that's what the cooking involves. All right. So what I'm doing here now is reducing the sauce. I'm going to give it a little taste and see where we're going at. Now we have white wine, we have chicken stock. This is a nice, what you call a braise. We roasted it, we cooked it in the pan, and now we're reducing that liquid and fortifying all that flavor. And this is getting delicious. So we're at the point where we're almost done, guys. The sauce is cooking down. I'm gonna put just a little pinch of salt. I'm put more black pepper because I love black pepper. And this is the point where, you know what, this is just subjective. The flavor is good. Can you add more herbs? Sure. In the recipe, we have basil, sorry. So we're gonna add a little fresh basil. I'm gonna keep that ready. So I'm gonna break some of these leaves. You can add more parsley. Really, really nice. And I'm just gonna tear it up with my hand. And this is a very old school way of chopping herbs. One, because it's easier, and two, because when you tear like something delicate like basil, when you tear it apart, it kind of organically follows the form or the shape of the leaf. And in turn, it doesn't bruise it. Sometimes when you chop it and you beat something down, what happens is it starts oxidizing, turning this brown. So you don't want that.
We just had quite a few join from Facebook. If you could just maybe recap what we're making today.
All right, we have a couple of latecomers. I don't know where the heck you guys been. It's 7 o'clock, or it's probably 7:30 now on a Tuesday. So we're making chicken Provencal. I pan-seared this nice chicken breast with a little salt and pepper and some flour to give it a nice little crust. And then in the pan, we're making a pan sauce. It could be in a pot as well if you're making a whole chicken per se. We have tomatoes, we have garlic, anchovies sauteed. We have tomatoes that have been concassate. And if you missed that, go back and follow us on YouTube or go to our webpage for that. And some olives. I'm adding the chicken in there now. And that's looking nice. And I'm gonna add some fresh basil right now. So we're at the final point. The chicken, like I told you, is at 80% done. So it doesn't need much cooking. And what I like to do, I like to put the chicken in the pan like I'm doing so and give it a couple flips because I want all this sauce to be braising it and giving it that love. And this, you can pair this up with a couple of things. You can serve this up with ratatouille. You can serve this up with some mashed potatoes, a rice pilaf. Really, really nice. And we're gonna get ready to plate up. So, any other questions before we plate up? Yep.
Yes, from Sandy, she wants to know if you put this on the takeout menu so she can smell it.
Somebody asked you, Sandy Steele, my friend, if we can put this in the takeout menu, and we might put it. Why not? Thank you. So the last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna add. So this is nice and reduced. I mean, you can see this. This is looking amazing in the pan. It's gonna look even better once I plate it. You're gonna get to see all that beautifulness. We're gonna add a little bit of butter, softened butter, room temperature butter. And I'm going really French. There's this little French chef always in the back of my mind screaming little, hey, you should do this, a little more salt and pepper, sacre bleu. So that butter, this is what you call Monte, not Jorge Montes, Monte, a bird. We're mounting on butter. So just mounting on a little bit of cold butter. So what you're doing here, you're you're mixing in this cold butter to the warm sauce, and what that does, it adds this extra thickness, richness, this lusciousness that only butter can add. And the French will attest to that. The Italians don't really care for butter like the French do, but that butter is going to give you this little thickness that's beautiful and amazing. And I'm going to plate these guys up because this is exactly what they are, beautiful and amazing. Look at that. You can slice it, you can dice it, you can put it any way you like. But look at that. Nice brown seared breast right there. I always like to go chunky and funky. So put all these little nice bits of tomato. The ingredients is always what's gonna sing. Those beautiful olives. And if you're in the south of France, they're all over the vineyards. And this sauce has this viscosity, this rich and luscious, like most French sauces would have. And this is your chicken provençal right here, loaded with sauce. It doesn't matter the side dish because the main star is this dish right here. And we're gonna garnish it with a little piece of basil in there to give it a little touch. And let me sprinkle a couple more pieces right there, like so. Nothing like a little contrast to make your dish a little pop. But the most important thing, it has flavor, it has soul, and it has the love that you imparted. And here we go. This is our chicken provençal. Thank you guys for joining. Any final questions before I go to town and eat this delicious dish? A nice rosé will be delicious with this. Harmeet, what's up? You missed out. We didn't have the wine pairing today. But this will be a nice dish with like a nice, I always like to go regional. Nice, a rosé will be delicious with this. But then again, a nice white wine like a Chardonnay or even a Pinot Noir will really mount up to this.
No final questions. Just thank you, Chef. Everything looks amazing.
All right, guys. That's been a class. Thank you for our homemade chef's cooking class. I am Jorge Montes, and this is Chicken Provençal.